Okay, so a short video on my Unraid server again, the Threadripper 2950X. Two 1080 Ti's, quite a whack of hard drives, SSDs, there's NVMe drives, 64 gigs of RAM there. It's 4-channel too, which is nice, 2933. Got it at 4.2 or 4.25 gigahertz basically, and it draws a lot of power. So I got Unraid up. Actually, this is the interface for it. Those are all the CPU cores. You can see what's basically happening there. Certain ones are dedicated out to certain machines. I'm not really going to go over that. But I also run Plex Media Server that is actually currently outputting media. And I've also got an ARC server running. And then I've got my two Windows VMs, which this is the first Windows VM. And I've got it. It's a little behind the other one, but I've got it installing basically right now, and it's installing a few games and stuff from Epic, and you can see that the 6 cores, 12 threads there are working pretty hard doing the install. It's more that than probably the video game itself, but like they're moving. I've got the game loading here. It's at night. It's just starting to come around, but got the cards running pretty hard as well. Like you can see GPU usage there and the core usage, and I have a ton of memory, so never is it really a problem that way. But you can see I've got some activity on one of my hard drives there as well. So that's machine 1, and then machine 2 here is also logged into that same ARC server running ARC. So this is another Windows VM, and yeah, it's just starting to get laid out. But like, this is my UPS, and I am drawing 945 watts, 981 there for a second. And you can see, as far as the UPS goes, I'm at max load capacity for the batteries to be able to handle that. Like technically, I'm not even sure if it would if the power failed. Like I think my system would go down, but yeah, you know, for one computer, it's drawing quite a bit of power. Like you can hear those. So those are like Founder Edition reference series cards, and they're blower style, so they actually only have the one fan, and then it just blows it through the heat sink and exhausts, you know, out the back. You can see here below the cards, and like there's quite a bit of air there. Second one as well, it's blowing too. What's really crazy is that 1600 watt platinum power supply. The fan is not even spinning. Well, it's drawing 950, almost 1,000 watts, right? Up to 1,000 watts from the wall. And that fan isn't even spinning yet. I think like at a certain point running it long enough, the power supply actually does get warm, and oh, there we go. It just kicked in. So, which it's allowed to. It's working. But that's the kind of power draw that the system's doing when, like, for instance, 2 people are gaming and someone's drawing off the media server at the same time. And my ARC server usually has, you know, maybe my sons or somebody's playing it as well. But yeah, like as power draw goes, when I was actually trying to run 3 video cards, I was hitting upwards of like 1,200 watts, and then my UPS would kick out because it can't handle that. That's too high. It's only, oh, it's even complaining about what I got going right now. Jeez. Oh, 990. So it's not really happy with it. It's like this is the absolute limit that I can condition and maintain. So yeah, there you go. Kind of power that Threadripper draws. Like, of course, I got it overclocked and had to liquid cool it to do it. But yeah, that's the kind of power it draws. There we go. Things are laid out now. Yeah. So these cores here, the first 6, they belong to one VM, and then these 2 are basically Unraid, and then these 6 again, and of course the hyper-threading ones on these sides, but those 6 are the second VM, and then those ones are basically what are running Plex. So actually Plex has access to those 4 and those 4, so those 4 and those 4. And then I've actually only got ARC having access to these 2, and then Linux itself, or like Unraid, has access technically to all 8 of those cores, which before I really started dedicating out like the SATA controllers and everything else, there was a lot more reliance on using virtual disks and things like that. That anytime you're running virtual disks, it really seems to eat up system usage in Unraid and also in your VMs. So I've got the VMs running on NVMe drives, and then they each have their own SATA controllers. So I actually have, I gotta get through the glare there, but there's 2 SATA controllers in there. And each one of those SATA controllers goes to a VM, and then in the very back there, I guess you can't really see it, but that's my other SATA controller that Unraid has. So I have 3 of them. But in doing that dedication out directly to the VM, that really helped with what I was seeing for system load through Unraid by running virtual disks. So I have no virtual disks. Everything is actually a dedicated device. So USB controllers, SATA controllers, the NVMe controllers, and then everything's just dedicated out that way, and it runs really smooth. Up until then, I had a few guys comment on the channel and stuff too that they were having slow performance, and a lot of times it can be those virtual disks, especially if you're doing a virtual disk on like, well, anything. It eats up system resources in Unraid as well as inside of the VM that you're running. As soon as you dedicate it out, then it's just using the resources in the VM, and it really keeps like Unraid uses hardly anything for resources, just whatever I basically have running for those Dockers, which those servers don't tend to draw too much. And that's where I got rid of like certain jaggedness, stuttering, slow loading times, or like, especially if you're running, okay, like if you do 2 virtual disks on your Unraid drive, right? So like, just give me a sec here. I'm gonna alt tab out of the game for a sec, and we're gonna go just to my main, right? So I have some hard drives here. And like if you were to take and create like a share in which you're putting your virtual disks in, and even if you're running it across multiple drives, the problem is when both VMs go to start accessing the virtual disks at the same time, now that hard drive platter, you've got the heads just banging around everywhere trying to pull that data in. Like one thing we know is when you start getting a hard drive to do more than one task at once, that's when they really get delayed and slowed down. So like these physical drives here, they only do my RAID array or my Unraid array, and like that's it. And then all of the other drives are actually dedicated out to SATA controllers, and that made a huge difference. That allows me to like, I guess this is just actually verifying right now, but like I can download at like, I don't know, probably and hold off those that they're enterprise hard drives, but like I can hold about 85 to like 100 megabyte, like megabyte, not megabit a second, like nonstop, just pulling off my internet, and that's probably more of a limitation on the internet than the hard drives. But it'll pull solid, and then I can run my games, and I don't even get a hiccup or anything else. And like this game is it's actually on that hard drive that's working on that enterprise hard drive, but I'm loaded in, everything else is fine. It still installs. I don't have any glitches or hiccups. It works pretty well, especially with like the bigger games and stuff. Then I'll put them on the SATA controller, or I mean on my SSD on the SATA controller, or I'll actually put them on the NVMe drive. But like then lightning fast loads, nothing seems to really chop or interfere. I even run MSI, and I've got my cards overclocked. I run slightly heavier fan profiles just to really exhaust the heat out. One of the things that I've been noticing is this is, I gotta tab out again to get my cursor here, but this is my cache drive, 1 terabyte NVMe drive, and like I run my Dockers and stuff on it. Right now the temperature isn't up there all that high right now. 43 is totally fine, but what happens is my video cards start running for like an hour while we're playing video games. That NVMe drive is actually trapped in behind those video cards, and like as the card heats up, it starts to heat up the NVMe drive and like the motherboard and everything at that point. So turning the fan curve up, it helps draw a little more air through there and everything else, and it makes the difference. It's staying down. Like I'm not seeing 65 degrees Celsius now on it anymore. It's much more reasonable, the temperatures. And then these are all my drives that are basically dedicated out. That's why you can't see temperatures and stuff like that, is because at one point Unraid saw the controllers and could see the drives, and then once I dedicate out those controllers, Unraid has nothing to do with them anymore.